Hablemos entonces del Bad Bunny o el Benito empresario, más allá de la música. ¿Quién es esa persona?
Benito empresario se ha creado con el tiempo no, mientras voy creciendo, mientras voy encontrando otras formas de poder expresarme y de crear. Yo, al final del día, toda esa parte viene de la música, porque es lo que hago que me apasiona y gracias a Dios pues, me ha dejado frutos que puedo seguir invirtiendo en otras áreas. Pero no se diferencia mucho, el Benito de empresario no se diferencia mucho de del que hace música. Lo digo porque va uno de la mano con el otro. Porque vuelvo y repito, es a través de la música y todo lo que he logrado que me da la oportunidad de crear estas otras cosas.
¿Quiénes son tus inspiraciones?
Yo soy bien fanático de la música desde chiquito y como siempre digo, en casa se escuchaba, de parte de mi país se escuchaba mucha salsa, de parte de mami era mucha balada, mucho merengue, de la República Dominicana, de Puerto Rico también. Si nos dejamos llevar por el género de reggaetón, pues siempre lo he dicho que Teo Calderón fue yo creo que de esas primeros artistas que yo me obsesioné y quise hacer lo que hacía, Vico C, que fue el primer artista de rap y urbano que escuché por primera vez, y luego por ahí viene Daddy Yankee, Don Omar, Wisin y Yandel, Calle 13, René, Eddie D, y muchos más exponentes del género de reggaetón que yo siempre escuché y siempre lo digo, que son parte de esas inspiraciones.
Sé que también vas a ser parte de esta competición que estamos haciendo en octubre. Vas a donar $100,000 a un small business latino. ¿Cuál es la importancia de hacer eso?
Yo creo que por lo que acabo de decir, a veces esas mismas personas que a veces no dan el primer paso es porque a lo mejor no tienen los recursos o no tienen el apoyo. So, yo simplemente quiero ser esa motivación
Exacto.
y ese empujón que pueda cambiarle quizás el día a alguien o incluso la vida. Y es lo que a mí por lo menos siempre me gusta hacer. A mí me gusta ver a otra persona triunfar y ver a otra persona lograr lo que sueña y saber que yo pude ser parte de ese proceso es súper cabrón. Y no de una manera como que después te lo voy a sacar en cara. No, gracias a mí. No, al contrario, es como que siento que fui parte contigo y eso nada más yo creo que a mí me llena siempre.
De alguna manera es lo que estás haciendo con el Good Bunny Foundation, ¿no? Podemos hablar un poquito de eso. ¿Cómo creaste eso? Digamos, se te vino esa idea de crear una fundación.
Yo creo que viene de ese sentimiento de siempre querer aportar algo y ayudar. Vuelvo y repito, yo vengo de un barrio y yo sé lo que son las necesidades, la crianza también que miro en mi casa. Yo vi como mi papá siempre estaba aportando en el barrio sin tener mucho, ¿me entiendes? De lo poco que teníamos. Y a veces yo cuando niño ni lo comprendía. A veces hay muchas cosas que a mí me hubiera encantado tener de niño. Muchos recursos, iniciativas, programas. Y yo he sido testigo de cómo el deporte y la música le puede cambiar la vida a cualquiera, a chamaquitos del barrio que lo lograron y ahora están en las grandes ligas, verlos cómo han logrado triunfar en la vida, pues esa es la intención principal.
¿Cuál ha sido el mejor momento de tu carrera hasta ahora?
El mejor momento de mi carrera, mano, yo esa respuesta nunca la tengo porque todos los días es el mejor momento de mi carrera, real. Todos los años es el mejor momento de mi carrera. Cada paso que doy es el mejor, es un paso más grande. Y así ha sido desde el principio. Y yo recuerdo cuando yo saqué Chambea, Soy Peor, y yo dije, diablo, ¿y qué canción más grande voy a sacar yo ahora? Y después, eso es como que eso no existe para mí, no hay límite, no hay techo y seguimos trabajando y haciendo cosas que nos llevan a otro nivel y a otro nivel, y cuando no existen ya los niveles, nosotros lo creamos. Entonces, el mejor momento de mi carrera, te podré decir cuando termine.
You work in an industry where there's no shortage of people who are looking to criticize you, have an opinion, judgment. What advice do you give to others around how to navigate that noise, when to listen and when to tune it out?
Tune it out at all times. It's just, if you're lucky, you'll surround yourself with good people whose opinions you trust, and you'll trust your own instinct. Put your device down for a moment, forget the comments, and trust your own instinct. Because that fear of being judged kills creativity, it kills free thinking, you're afraid to take chances. It's out there, it's big time out there, but just block it out, tune it out as much as you can. I'm lucky I didn't think that way, and I also had a chance to develop any skills that I might have in a time before the internet. You know, where I'd just be in front of one live audience, you know, with no comments. They couldn't make any comments other than to their friends or family. And I was able to fail and succeed from night to night. And yeah, just tune it out as much as you can, because really there's only a few opinions you should trust. You know who to trust, and the rest are just, I don't know, they're trying to be constructive, some of them, but a lot of it's very negative because of their own unhappiness, and it's anonymous. I'd like to see their faces. I think that's the only way you should comment.
I love that idea.
And unfiltered.
Idea. Yes.
You see those filters where people make their baby's eyes big?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
What?
Yeah, I was like,
is
if you,
that
also, if you have to filter your baby, I'm like that is like the best age of life,
It's so
where no
creepy.
one's judging them. Like,
No!
they're really cute. People
Yeah.
don't like the picture anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, what about raising your child in an Instagram world where you're putting them out performing from home? It's not like they're getting any real training, you know. I mean, there are child actors who get real training, but to do this from home and to put that in their head that there are people out there. Look how many likes we got, honey. My dear little 4-year-old. Look how much people like you. That is so sad and sick. And how are they going to break from that way of thinking?
Or just that constant reinforcement, positive and negative.
From strangers.
From strangers, of
Yeah.
self-worth. My kids were never talented enough to actually
Good.
go out online and to do anything people would watch. But so maybe we're lucky from that perspective.
We were some of the last parents in our, school or whatever, and friends, to let our kids have phones.
It is a gateway.
But they are grateful. I know myself, because they're 28, 25. They are grateful that they had life before the internet. They remember.
Well, it is such a defining dynamic in lives today, and two, also, in careers and how you judge sense of self. When you're working, we talked about this earlier, but you're working in an industry where you are constantly being compared in a very, very public way to other people.
I'm glad I don't know that.
You are. Do you want me to read you the comments?
I don't want to know.
But at least in terms of the industry, I think in such a public way, people compare and judge in a way that might be different than other industries. How do you think about that? At least maybe not for you, but how do you think about that as it relates to navigating the entertainment industry, but also how people in their own fields can better navigate those moments?
Comparing yourself to anyone, forget others comparing you, but if you get sucked into that, or you do it yourself, comparing yourself to anyone is just killer. And I dealt with, I dealt with jealousy on my part for the first time, and really only time, thank goodness. I've had my moments, of course, I'm only human, but when I was in Second City Theater, I worked, when I was first cast, there was another woman who was very good and strong, but just kind of finding her way. And then she left, and Andrea Martin came in. Andrea Martin I worked with a lot throughout the years at SCTV and beyond, and she's just great. And when she came in, she had done a lot of theater. This was my first theater job. So I was feeling good. And then Andrea came in, and Andrea was so strong. And the way you would build a show is do improvs every night, and then you start rewriting them, working on them, finessing them until you had the next show. And Andrea had like 40 scenes to my 2, because she was just so strong, and it really put me through a rough time. I was torturing myself about, like, why am I comparing myself to Andrea, and why am I jealous of what she has? And I don't know if this is correct, but it worked for me. It finally came down to, she knows who she is and she knows what she wants. And she's found great ways to get what she wants. I mean, none of it's bad. It was all healthy. She was working towards great performances, right? But she knew herself, and I didn't know myself. So comparing myself to her made no sense. It was just, the only difference is Andrea knows who she is, and I don't. And so my job was to find out who I am and what I have to offer, and not compare myself.
I think sort of so much of what we do is compare ourselves, who we think we should be, what others think we should be, what we, all these different noises as it relates to our sense of self. There's a great quote I love from Dolly Parton who says, find out who you are and do it on purpose, which is truly the hardest thing in life.
It's like fake it till you or fake it till it becomes real. Yeah. Be the person, fake being the person you want to be until it becomes natural. Until
it becomes who you are, or until you find who you are that's always been there. How did you find your sense of self, and do you have any advice for others around what it takes to really get a better sense of your strengths and direction you want to follow?
Well, I'm going to jump on finding out who you are, yourself. Growing up, and still, I don't know who I am. And maybe it's because I'm a character actor, but I don't care to know who I am. There's so much. It struck me in the last few years how much talk there is about me and who I am, and I want others to treat me in the way and refer to me in the way that I believe I am. And God bless you. I hope you can be yourself, find out who you are, at least the parts of you that are most important for your life, or to gain happiness, and to fulfill your potential. But you don't have to know who you are. You're ever evolving. What's the point of being here if we're not ever evolving? So I don't care to know who I am. From day to day, it seems to change. I feel like I'm a different person right now, of course, with talking about this with you than I am with my kids this morning. I think that's too much to put on yourself.
Well, I love that point around that it's an evolution. It is an evolution. There's so many different dimensions to your life.
And you'll grow. Why not allow yourself to grow? That's my dream for aging. Well, first of all, to age, to be able to be alive, but then to be open and to keep learning.
What's one piece of advice that you would give to a smart, driven person coming out of college who's looking to enter your field?
Seek out like-minded, not the same thinking people, but like-minded people who you can work with, but also grow with. And I've said this before, but be aware, be conscious of the foot you go in on at the beginning of any new relationship, whether it's personal or work, because the foot you go in on is pretty much the foot you're going to stay on. It's really hard to change that dynamic once you've presented yourself as one thing.
Jordan, it is wonderful to be here with you today.
So great to be here with you. It's so exciting.
So let's start. You made history as the youngest Black playwright in Broadway history, which is incredible. How did that make you feel?
Insane, insane. Like, it's something you don't even really think about, because you're too busy just doing the work. But to think about the fact that, the person before me was Lorraine Hansberry, wrote A Raisin in the Sun in 1958, So to think that I'm like following in that footsteps, in that lineage, just excites me. And also, to me, is the beginning of the future. It's the beginning of a new kind of storytelling and a new kind of theater, a new kind of Broadway,
I want to hear about your background. How did you get into theater, Broadway, and entertainment?
It all started when I was really young, like about 6 years old. I would always put on these plays in my living room, and I would cut up my mom's weave and my dad's work uniform to make costumes. I really just love telling stories and love becoming other characters. And so that started with me doing plays in the living room, to going to the backyard, to growing from the backyard, to doing them in the church. And so that just grew. And then when I moved to New York, I would hand out flyers in Times Square and on the subway, trying to pass out and let people know that my shows were happening. And that just grew and grew. And then I did Ain't No Mo at the Public Theater, and then it went from the Public Theater to Broadway.
How did you you convince producers to take a chance on you and take a chance on Ain't No Mo and get it to Broadway?
Yeah, you know what's crazy is I really had to do a lot of the work myself first.
Really?
Yeah, because it was one of those pieces where it just wasn't like anything else. You know, when people want you to compare something to something, it's like, I don't really know what it's comparative to. But really, I had to believe in myself and believe in my work before I trusted other people to believe in it for me, right?
Yeah.
And I think that started with putting on readings, like with the community, like finding different organizations that would let me just set up music stands and call friends and read a play, right? And I think once I started doing that, that's when Jack Phillips Moore from the Public Theater ended up seeing a reading of it that was done at New York Theater Workshop with Stevie Walker Webb, and it just kind of grew from there.
And how were you able to like break into the Hollywood scene, convince BET to take a chance on you? What was that process like for you?
Oh, that was a journey. So the Miss Pat show, I was 23 when I wrote it. And I actually wrote it in my apartment. I used to live in this horrible New York apartment. I didn't have a closet. I slept on a futon. I always said I had 5 roommates and 2 rats. Because it was just the best. I wrote that pilot. Lee Daniels brought me to Fox, and Miss Pat brought me to Fox, and they were like, absolutely not. We're not giving a kid in college a television show. I don't care how good his plays are. They were like, we're not doing that, right? So Lee's like, you know, well, we're gonna keep trying. And Miss Pat calls me, and she said, I want you to do something for me. I want you to write the first episode. And I was like, what? She was like, write the first episode and take your name off of it. And I was like, what do you mean take my name off of it? Wow. So I took my name off of it. I wrote the episode, trusting. And she sent it in to Fox, her and Lee Daniels, and Fox said, who wrote this? And they said it was the kid you didn't want to hire.
What a good strategy.
Yeah, and that's how I ended up like being able to have my own show. Yeah.
That's really cool. And finally, Jordan, I'm sure you've got a lot of rejection in your career, being in theater, being in Hollywood. Yeah. Tell me about that experience for you and any advice you have for others who may be pitching or going through similar rejections in their fields.
Yeah, don't let nobody talk you out of what you know to be true, right? Because if they can't give you the space, you can find the space. If you gotta do it in the living room, if you gotta do it in the backyard, if you gotta do it at the rec center, do it. There's always some form of you're not good enough. There's always some form of we don't get it.
Yeah.
We don't understand it. That's too much. That's too, you know, what I'm grateful for is because I've received so many no's, at some point, Spirit just knocks something into my head. It's like, do you know who you are? Do you know what you've done when people told you you couldn't do it? When people said it was impossible? And I think that that's what really, you know, pushed me forward, is to never, ever, ever take no for an answer when there's a yes in the bottom of your gut.
Hold on, we were here with the president and nobody had their cameras out then. What's going on here?
What's up, my people? How you doing today, man? What's good?
All right, David, I want to start with a comment here, which is, I don't know what the definition you define as a superstar, but you know what I define it? A guy who shows up 30 minutes late and nobody leaves. Welcome to Botswana.
Thank you. You know, I had a concert last night in Nigeria, so literally from the stage, I went straight to the plane, so.
No, we appreciate the effort.
Pardon me. And then when I landed, I was like, yo, I have to come in smelling fresh, so I got to take a shower, you know what I'm saying?
You look good, smell good, and you know, did we get you a police escort? Is that it? No, you did it yourself? All right.
Botswana is safe.
That's what, no, I was talking about speed. I was talking about traffic. Botswana is super safe. Well, welcome, and we're glad. Now, we're here. It was your first concert in Nigeria with the new album?
Yes,
yes.
Nice.
First so you're off a high right now, right?
Yeah, crazy.
So the new album, Timeless. Last I checked, was the #2 album in the world on the global Billboard charts. Is that true?
Crazy.
Who's number 1? Did you see? I didn't.
Yo, it's some guy. He's a country singer. I don't even know where he's from, but he's so big. Yeah, it was so big. I was trying to reach out to him, like, yo, can I be #1 for one day?
Just 1 week. That's all we want.
Can I get a screenshot? Instagram. You know.
Well,
but, you know, we thank God. All in all, you know what I'm saying? We thank God.
So tell us how the comeback has been.
Man, the comeback like I call this album like the miracle album, you know what I'm saying? 4 months, I was on my couch, you know what I'm saying, watching, I've been on the high for like about 12 years, non-stop, touring, dropping music, being active, and then to just have that break, you know what I'm saying? It was like God put a full stop like to everything I was doing. Like, yo, go sit down. You know what I'm saying? For 6 months, and just watching everybody live their lives and, just living in a different momentum. It's crazy. I never thought I'd be able to sit here. I never thought I'd be able to get on stage and like do what I used to do. I thought like it's never going to be the same. So for it to just be successful just like this, it's a miracle to me.
Just for context, for those who don't know, Davido lost his son tragically, and was off for 6 months. How, so first, as a father, my condolences. I can't imagine how hard that is. Obviously, that had to change you as a person. Have you come back now as a performer differently?
Somebody asked me that earlier too. I'd say maybe like performance-wise, I wouldn't say it's really like changed me, but I'd say like 2 years ago, if you came to my backstage, it's like a party. You know what I'm saying? It's like a club. But if you saw my backstage like yesterday, like stuff is more organized. I had a lot of time to think and reflect, You know what I'm saying? So I made a lot of changes. Performance-wise, when I get on stage, I'm still the same Davido, always been. But if you look at the way our procedure, our process now, the production, I'll say it's been more matured because we've had time to think, and I've had time to realize that God gave me this gift. You know what I'm saying? We don't want to waste the opportunity. You know what I'm saying, that God has given us. And Afrobeats now is at a world-class stage. It's not the same. It's not the same as 2 years. We can't just, before when we, do concerts, we just, put the CD in the thing, put on the speakers, get the mic, and, people are going crazy. But now, from like the creative director, from the production, from the sound, it's crazy. Like we're spending so much money just to not only to make it look good, but to put it, up there with like, R&B, pop, stuff like that. They spend a lot on production. So like yesterday, like going on tour, this tour that I'm about to embark on, I'm thinking more of how I'm going to make the culture look very good rather than how much I'm going to get in my pocket. You know what I'm saying?
I was struck, the stat that struck me was the Timeless has been streamed, last I checked, almost 160 million times, but almost 60 million of those came from the US. So when you talk about Afrobeats being, even a couple years ago, Afrobeats was, the music, popular in Africa. And you're right, it's become a genre where 40% of your traffic's in the US and majority of the traffic's outside Africa. So that's a statement.
Mm-hmm. And definitely, even for me, I went to college in America and coming directly from Africa. I came from Nigeria at 16, directly to Alabama in America. So imagine just flying in direct. I remember landing and when I was picking my classes in school, registering in the dorm, they came to me like, yo, where are you from? I was like, Nigeria. They were like, how did you get here? I'm like, you want to know how I got here? So, you know what I'm saying? So people, the knowledge, you know what I'm saying? I've lived in the Western world, I've lived in Africa. And let me tell you, growing up in the Western world, they don't really give the knowledge that Africa, is somewhat kind of developed. You know what I'm saying? So for me to learn, and it's like 2011, 2010. So for me to land somewhere and the person didn't even know that we had an airport in Nigeria to transport me from Nigeria to, that's then. You know what I'm saying? So they don't educate them about, you know what I'm saying? But now it's way different. You know what I'm saying? Now when you say, oh, where are you from? I'm from Nigeria. Oh, I love Nigerian music. Oh, I love African food. Oh, I love African clothes. So now it's different, you know what I'm saying? So everything is changing.
The political term for that is soft power. America obviously has been the dominant country of the last 100 years. And yes, it's an economic powerhouse, but it's Hollywood that made America ubiquitous, where if you see every movie and every TV show seem to be made in America, and it spread American culture. And that's kind of what you're doing here. And you're making, I mean, and also you're empowered by streaming, where it used to be you would have a record contract here, and you'd have to get like, you would be like, oh, I'll get something in the African, you get a contract, a secondary contract, but now streaming is universal. Does that change how you make music, the fact that your music that you drop here can be, you don't have to only drop it and drop a record or an album in this region, but you're broadcasting to the world?
I mean, the streaming era right now is just crazy. You can make a song in your bedroom, in somewhere, let's just say in Nairobi, in Kenya, somewhere in an apartment, nobody knows. And you press send, and you release the song. Do you know, these days you can go to bed and wake up a superstar. All you need is, even like with TikTok, like all you need is one, it could be anything. Somebody could walk and trip, and it becomes funny and it becomes a thing. So right now, like, before, when we're making music, we're like even we're making this album, we're like, oh, you know what I'm saying, we're making music for the ears and stuff like that. But now you're making music like, yo, how can we be creative with this song? You know what I'm saying? That's how you have like challenges now and stuff like that. So now music is not only about music, you know what I'm saying? The creative process is now more dynamic because there's so many elements. Now you have to promote. Before, all you have to promote is like on radio, you know, you have print press, you do interviews, TV. Now there's like 20 apps that you have to promote. Do you understand? So, and all the apps have engagements, they have a following. So,
but David, you bring up a great point, which is when you're saying you're being creative and you can just drop something at night and the next day it's a hit. Even when you got started 10 years ago, you had to get somebody, or 12 years ago, you had to get somebody else to give you a record contract. When you say you could promote, before you had to get some TV show or something to let you on. You had to let somebody let you make the record. Now you make the song and you publish it yourself. You promote it yourself with your platforms. So again, that must maybe tell us the arc of your career, because you've seen your career exactly overlaps with the change in the music industry. So tell us how you got your big break and how it's changed to now.
So my big break, like I was.
Or maybe you made your big break, but how did you become Davido?
So I used to be a producer mainly. Like I always wanted to be like in the background of things. So I used to have an older cousin. He was like the musician of the family. He was the older cousin. I was the last born. I'm the last born of my family. I've always been the youngest. But then I was very, very good with like computer, tech, stuff like that. So when he told me that, oh, he does music, I quickly went to go and learn how to record music from YouTube. I learned from YouTube. You know what I'm saying? So I bought like a computer, the program and everything, and I started learning on YouTube. Then I started recording people. So I started recording artists, stuff like that. So one of my cousins that was always with me every time in the studio, he noticed that, like, if you're an artist and you're in the studio and I'm recording you, if the artist made a mistake, you always notice that I'd always give the artist like, I'm like, okay, don't sing it like that. Sing it like this. Sing it this way. It will catch their ears more this way. So over time doing that, I noticed that I was like, yo, I'm better than everybody that I'm recording. So over time then, I was just like, you know what, maybe I should record a song. So the first song I ever recorded blew up. No, that was the second one. The first one, Davido blew up in like Africa and everywhere, but like the first one like blew up locally, like in Lagos, Nigeria.
What was it?
It's called Back When. So that one was, I was in school, I was in college because I had moved back to Nigeria, but my dad sent me to like the village, a school in the village, far away. So he'd only let me come back every other week to Lagos to do music. So the deal was, you know what I'm saying, I can do music, but I got to finish school, you feel me? So I was doing that. So one day my boy called me, he was like, because I dropped the song and I went to school, so I don't even know what's going on. There was no social media like now where somebody can just send you a snap like, oh, I was in the club. They went crazy to your song. So my guy went for the weekend and came back on a Monday, so I'm walking to class like, he's like, guy, I was in the club last night. Everybody's singing your song. I said, eh? Boy, I dropped my school bag so quick. So like that was like the time then when I started realizing that okay, I think I want to fully do music. So I left school for a bit and then went to focus on that. And then everything just
What did your dad say about that?
oh he was mad, man. He was but funny enough, my family they've always loved music. Like my family they dance a lot, we throw a lot of parties. But my dad is just very, very adamant on education. No matter I don't win 100 Grammys, my daddy wants you to get education.
Well, your dad, you know, is a very successful business person.
Yeah.
What did you learn from him in his business career, if anything, that you've applied to your music and creative career, which is also business career, but different?
I mean, it's still, you know, business. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we get in a lot of arguments because, you know, showbiz is different from a normal person's life that's just doing business. Like, for example, I might be in Italy, and then maybe you just see like a caption, oh, Davido buys this $300,000 watch. Come, why are you wasting your money? I said, Daddy, you understand. Do you understand? We're inspiring people. Do you understand? Do you understand? We're inspiring people. So, like, different aspects, but all in all, it's still business. Like, he still calls me to make sure, like, yo, save here, invest here, blah, blah, blah. If I want to, like, for example, I wanted to rent, like, a penthouse and stuff like that, and he advised me, like, you're wasting money. You're just renting, you're spending, you know what I'm saying, blah, 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 on just, you know, buy it and then use it when you're not around Airbnb. So, little advice here and there. But, yeah, it took a while for, you know, him to really accept the music, but now he accepted it fully and everything. So.
Forbes estimated you made $20 million last year, so I guess that probably makes Dad proud, right? That's you know, it's like Jay-Z said, right? You know, I'm not a businessman, I'm a business
man.
You're a business. Part of the success in your business is social media. I couldn't help but notice you have more social media followers than any other Afrobeats artist. I mean, you got WizKid, Burna Boy, all beat. I'm sure they're, you know, trying to catch up. How did you get such a big number, and what do you do with it that leverages it?
I wouldn't be able to tell you, but I'm a likable figure. I'm a likable person. But apart from that,
Burna Boy is listening.
But apart from that, like I've always been like the guy to be like, yo, bring your phone. Let me make you an Instagram page. Like even my wife, I'm the one that tells her, you have to post today. You haven't posted So I've always been that guy. Like I told you, like I was good when I was young. I was very good in tech and stuff like that. And I use my Instagram. I make it like very personal. You know what I'm saying? Like over the years. Like if I wasn't doing music, I would have done stand-up. Definitely. When I know I'm funny, like I be laughing at.
Funny.
Like I laugh at myself. Like I've been alone laughing at myself. But apart from that, I've always been just very active. I think Wiz and Burna are not as active like social. I'm a very social person. You know.
How many followers now? Do you know offhand?
Me?
Yeah, you.
I think now on Instagram it's like 27 million. On Twitter it's like 14 million. Facebook is like, I don't know, 10 million.
A lot million.
YouTube, I don't know.
What's cool is though you're then leveraging that you built your own channels. You built your own media channels. Mm-hmm. And now you're leveraging it with business deals with partnerships like with Puma and with Pernod Ricard. So how did that process go? You know, again, as you're a businessman, you started doing these brand partnerships.
Yeah.
Kind of what was your point of view on that?
Just being able to market myself well, like I know what I want. Do you understand? Like, for example, you come and you want a brand ambassador, want Davido to, shoot an advert for us, you know what I'm saying? We sign, we do this, blah, blah. And then you find out like 6 months down the line of the relationship with this brand, I'm calling them like, yo, let's do it this way. And it works out. And then you find out that the relationship is becoming bigger than a brand ambassadorship. Like for Puma, I was never meant to have a collection, my own collection. I was just meant to just shoot, a couple commercials for them, post on socials. And then over time, the relationship, molded into me getting my own collection worldwide in every Puma store. You know what I'm saying? So there's a way you market.
I noticed the hat.
Oh yeah. Come on, I gotta market anyhow I can. But you know what I'm saying? I feel like there's always more to it. Like even being a musician, like I gain so much more for the brands. If I'm doing an event, for example, and I call, I'm like, yo, I'm having a sports event. Yo, Puma, can you please supply? Us clothes, shoes, and because I'm doing extra work for them, that's not even on paper. You know what I'm saying? They also want to scratch my back as well. Goes with Martell as well. Any event I do, birthdays, whatever, they come through, they set up, and the list goes on. In Phoenix, anytime one of my staff phones break, they will replace it sharp. So, you know, it's become like more of like a family.
Does that mean you're bringing Martell cognac to the Bush party tomorrow?
There should be some. I'll bring some.
We're bringing it's done, and we're holding you to that. Your godfather, Aliko Dangote, who I met, is the richest man in Africa.
He drove me. Uncle Aliko drove me home from the hospital. Right. Yeah, man.
Exactly. Like, I saw a mind blow right there. What did he teach you about kind of business, if anything?
Uncle Aliko is a very different kind of billionaire. Uncle Aliko buys like 2 cars every 8 years. He's a very, very disciplined and very, very different kind of billionaire. Every time I see him, he just says one thing and one thing only: save your money. There's nothing more he tells me every time, just save your money. But him and my dad, they've been very, very close friends since, you know what I'm saying, they were young. And he's done well for us, you know, back home. Made us, you know, a lot of industries. He does it all. He just opened the biggest is it a cement plant, a cement factory in Africa, is it? Yeah. So you know, that's providing jobs. You know what I'm saying? Us too, you know, what we do, you know, we have an electricity company. So, you know, the top men in Nigeria, I feel like they do what they can, you know, to provide.
I can't help but think with so many good business role models you had that they gave you the confidence to take some of the chances you took, because like you said, you drop out of college, it's hard to do, but again, you had that confidence and you had those role models. Now you're expanding your business now with your new media company, right?
Yes.
Give us a scoop on that.
You know, every artist always, like, when we're in the studio, we meet a lot of young people, like, we're like, yo, I want this guy to be on my team, I want to help you out. So over the years, it's always making music and having artists has always been more of like family to me. You know, they've always been signed to me, but I'm not really like checking the books, like, yo, you did the show, where's my part of the money? You know, obviously because like I'm making so much myself. But I just wanted them to kind of like, because it's very hard, especially now, because music is so expensive. So I really wanted them to like have kind of their own money for like the first couple of years and then later on. But this new record label, I'm taking every dollar, every do you understand? Because music is so expensive now that if an artist comes and you want to drop a record, you know what I'm saying, and you make, let's just say, for example, you make, let's just say, $20, and instead of me, like back in the day, I'd probably be like, yeah, you can keep the $20. But I'm like, yo, you got to pay $10 because we have to pay $5 to TikTok. We have to pay $2 to. So music is much bigger now. So apart from even like music, I want to start investing in like short films. I want to start investing in art. You know what I'm saying? Art exhibitions, just everything in like in the creative industry. I want to indulge myself in. I plan to one day, I want to open like a TV station, a radio station. I want to be able to, for us to have our own apps, you know, Afrobeats apps that you can go to, listen to music, and just a lot of ideas are coming.
And is the idea to use the, Davido brand and stay with that, or is it a different brand?
Definitely, the Davido brand is going to be the backbone, but I think I also want to do other things, which obviously Davido will always be connected to, but I actually want to branch out and, you know, do some things that I'm not really directly too much, like in their face, like, you know what I'm saying?
We got about 3 minutes left. You just turned 30 years old. We still let you in under 30. We gave you a break.
I just made it.
We gave you an exemption here. What do you want to when we have you at our under 40 conference for the next 10 years? Where do you see yourself? What do we see over the next 10 years from Davido?
Like I just told you, some like short, long-term plans. I definitely want to be able to look back and see a big organization that I have. You know, obviously Davido will always be like the parent, you know, banner of everything. But I want to be able to, by then, look back and, you know what I'm saying, see a couple avenues in different industries, making money, creating jobs, creating opportunities for Africans. And also, this is like one of the most important things to me, just really cleaning up the culture and really just showing the world how beautiful it is, because it's really, really beautiful. You know what I'm saying? Just being in Africa, like, look at Ghana, every December, everybody runs to Ghana, having that experience. So I want just to have that image to just keep just painting it everywhere we go, you know?
What do we think? You know, we all want to live in a Davido Africa?
Yes.
All right, well, I think we could do it. One thing you didn't just mention is whether or not you see yourself performing, like how, you know, do you want to perform forever or do you want to transition to businessman?
Probably, like, I see myself like probably transitioning into like a businessman then, because I'm very good at this music. Once in a while, maybe throw like a show, you know what I'm saying? It would be nice. Like imagine me being in the office and like after the office, like, oh, I have to go and change. I have to go and perform. But I don't see myself ever not wanting to like do music, even if it's just like for fun. But I perform for my staff in my office. Do you understand? So I don't think it's something that will ever leave me.
That's the kind of staff meeting I
Yeah, for sure.
Well, we know you rushed to be here, and we know again your tour. Again, you were just in New York, and I was in New York that week, and everybody, you know, people knew you were there. Yeah. So I want to, on behalf of all of us, I want to congratulate you on your success.
Thank you.
And also appreciate you because when we talked to Davido about coming down, he said, I absolutely want to perform for everybody. So we're going to do something tomorrow, very, very Botswanan. Have you been to Botswana before? You've been here before,
What? Yes, I've been to Botswana twice. I performed twice.
All right.
Yeah,
well, third time's the charm.
Cameroon.
We were talking about having him headline the concert yesterday, but he had his big show in Lagos. But I think that's a good thing for everybody here because you get a private show in the bush. Now, all right, you performed in Botswana twice before. Have you ever performed in the bush before?
I performed in the bush before, but not in Botswana.
Have you ever performed in the bush in Botswana before?
No, tomorrow
right,
I'm going to
your
perform.
first right there. So we can't wait to see, you know, Davido the brand and Davido the man, and tomorrow we see Davido the act. Many facets of this very interesting person, but thank you for making the effort. We know it was, you know, you had to rush to get down here. You smell great, by the way.
Thank you.
And we can't wait to see you tomorrow. But again,
Thank you.
Any last words for these good people?
Yes, man. You know, first of all, sorry for the delay, but you know, I hope you guys enjoyed the talk. The album Timeless is out now. Make sure you go stream it, and God bless each and every one of you. Love you guys. Choo!
Drop Mike.
Thank you so much for sitting with me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Of course. So I want to first talk about what exactly your company does. Can you explain Sonoro for me?
Yeah, so Sonoro is a global entertainment company. So we develop audio-first IP, so concepts that start as podcasts, primarily with Latino creators around the world, so in English, Spanish, or bilingual. And then we take that IP and develop it into TV, film, books, event series, merchandise, e-commerce, basically everything under the sun.
Tell me about your founding story. What were you doing before, and then how did this company come about?
I've always been in love with storytelling. That's what brings me the most passion and the most joy. And so I always knew I wanted to do something in the entertainment or storytelling space. Right after college, my first job was actually in nonfiction storytelling. So I was at the LA Times for about 4 years. In that sort of journey, I came across audio and podcasting as this really great way to develop IP and make it grow and sort of enhance the audience that we already had. And so in 2017, I was part of the team that launched Dirty John, which was the first podcast LA Times ever produced. It was this insane true crime story, and it was sort of a runaway success. Today it has over 80 million downloads, and that was the first time that I saw audio as an IP property being used to develop all different types of media. And to me, that was like a very big sort of aha moment that as someone that always loves stories and content, this was sort of like the next frontier or the next medium where that experimentation and excitement was gonna come from. So I spent the next sort of 3 years launching about a dozen podcasts with the LA Times. And then at that point sort of felt ready to go and build something more from the ground up. It was a little bit of mini startup within a larger organization at the time and gave me, I think, the entrepreneurial itch to really get with my co-founders and start Sonoro.
Very cool. Now there's so many podcast companies out there today, obviously a lot of entertainment companies as well. How do you stand out from like the Wonderies of the world or other companies doing similar things but maybe through a different lens?
Yeah, I think for us, first and foremost, we really believe ourselves to be an entertainment company. So for us, audio is really just that first step. We want everything to exist beyond that. And like I said, it can be TV, it can be film, which is more what you've traditionally seen podcasts become. But this month we launched our first graphic novel, which is based on a podcast that we produced. We have live events and tours with some of our podcasters that we're producing as well going into next year. And then separately, of course, for us, the focus really is the Latino community around the world. And there's 500 million global Spanish speakers, 60 million US Latinos. So for us, that is our big differentiator.
So now I want to talk about your fundraising journey. Can you tell me about how much you've raised and what the process has been like for you?
Yeah, so today we've raised about $13 million. So our primary investors are Lair Hippo and Founder Collective and Greycroft. We have some really excellent media investors. Awesome. And again, I've been very lucky to have some great co-founders to go on that journey with. And I think that in a way, we were familiar and unfamiliar as a concept, right? Like people understood at the time we launched March 2020. At that point, there had been audio, I know, right?
That's a fun time to launch a company.
Interesting timing. But people understood conceptually to a certain extent the audio to TV and film pipeline. And I think where we had to sort of do more education in our pitches, frankly, was we're going beyond that. We really are thinking about this as a global entertainment company that's developing not just TV and film, but all of these other mediums and focusing on this global community.
Talk to me a little bit about your audience. You know, how many is it? How many in the US? How many globally? And who are the types of people that you're trying to reach?
Yeah, so today we have over 25 million global downloads. So that is across Mexico and Latin America, primarily Mexico, and then US Latinos. So we're split about 80-20 to LATAM and the US. And our audience is young. I mean, they're typically 18 to 35. They're in the bigger cities. In the US, they are where you would expect them to be for primarily sort of Latino-dominated cities in California, Arizona, New York, Florida, etc. But they're young and they're sort of excited and they're diverse.
Last question for you. What do you want your legacy to be?
I mean, so I was just a little nerd when I was young. I was incredibly nerdy. I was, like I said, I loved fan fiction and sci-fi and fantasy and all that stuff. And part of the reason why I focused on storytelling as sort of the through line of my career and sort of personal choices and interests is because I just love the way a great story makes me feel. And I think like a lot of the community that is built online around those things is really special for a lot of people, especially that are outcasts when they're growing up. And so I hope that my legacy with Sonoro and beyond really is either facilitating or being a part of making these great shows that make people feel the same way I feel when I read a really great book.
If we don't have examples of women who look like me, by the way, my mother died when she was 76, my father died at 85, I'm 65 this year. It's gonna end sooner than later. And I say sooner than later, not in a macabre, like, oh my God. It's just the truth. And so for me, I think the best thing is for women, particularly women, to see people like me, because they go, oh, okay, it's okay. You know what? I am 14 years old. This girl is this girl at 4:20 in the morning. I was this girl. Mm-hmm. I am this person all the time. You can be 14 and silly and look like she looks and realize that tick tock, we have stuff to do. And that's why charitable work is important, and that's why, you know, family, Ruby, Annie, Chris, that my extended family, my sober family. You know, it's very important to me. I've had the most creative life in the last year that I've had in my entire life, at 64. I have another children's book that I'm publishing next year. I'm in Haunted Mansion. I'm also trying to produce things now. I'm going to try to produce a TV show based on the Scarpetta books with Nicole Kidman next year for Amazon. This is my time to do my work because I'm now having this opportunity to do it. I also, by the way, raised 2 kids, and I'm very happy that I did yogurt commercials that make you poop for many years to help me stay home and raise my kids and be able to be available to my children, particularly my daughter Ruby. If you go back, you will see that I was going to retire at 40. There have been many, many, many points where I said, well, I don't think I'll ever make a movie again. I've said it for a long time because I watched my parents, who both were monster stars, big, 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 big stars. I watched them no longer get to do the work that made them stars. And I watched them just be famous people who used to work. And it killed them. And it's heartbreaking. And so I always felt like I better get out before they no longer ask me to come. I wanted to take, by being their child, the great benefit to being the daughter of famous people is that I saw what fame does to you. And I'm not saying the bad things, I've seen the great parts of fame. The access to the arts, the worldwide joy and genuine love from people all over the world, wherever you go. Yes, but this downside is very, very tricky because you stop getting to do that job. And so I've been saying all along, oh, I'm not going to do it anymore. Oh, no, I'll get out. Because I wanted to get out before that moment where you're just sitting there and you no longer get to do the work, and yet you're famous and people go, oh my God, I love you. Hi, oh my God. And it was very important to me that I do that. And then what's been a miracle is that every time I think I'm going to do that, then I get a job that then transforms the next 5 years. And that's what's happened. And so the fact that these 2 pieces of work, The Bear and Everything Everywhere All at Once, are all happening right now is just, I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's absolutely beautiful. And I feel so privileged that I've been able to do them, that they asked me to be a part of these pieces of work, you know. It's beautiful.
Latto, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Of course.
So I want to start with you at the very beginning. Tell me how you got your start in music.
Okay, this is kind of funny, so follow me. My dad is like street dude, into cars, just knows a lot of people, so I'm around this like fast lifestyle. And then in school, language arts was always my favorite subject.
Mine too.
Really? Yeah. Smart girl. I just loved wordplay, like metaphors, similes, writing essays and poems, like that was just so second nature for me. So I had this passion, and then this lifestyle, I'm already growing up around it. They kind of just like combined my 2 worlds.
So then how did you start breaking onto the scene? Walk me through the steps you took.
So in my household, if you say you want to do something, we doing it full-fledged. Like, it's not a hobby. We prepping for real life. Like, we taking this serious like a career. So when I told my dad that I wanted to rap, from that point on, I'm doing talent shows, open mics, ciphers, posting like my flyers around the city on stop signs. We printed up my mixtapes and we're passing them out at festivals in Atlanta, selling them in like the Walmart parking lot. I'm getting picked up from school, doing my homework in the studio lobby, and then going to the booth, like full-fledged, this is your career now.
What would you say are some of the difficulties of managing, yourself as a brand?
Everything is difficult. Waking up early, difficult. Scheduling things, making sure, you're allotting self-care, self-time, because you can easily crash out with this industry and just the amount of time it takes. Like, a lot of people have work a 9 to 5, but this is like a 12 to 12. So I think everything about it is difficult, and I really love what I do. This is so strenuous that I would have been quit if I did not genuinely enjoy it. It's so strenuous and so demanding of your time and energy. It's like, I can't even choose the hardest thing.
I'm sure. How do you manage that? Like, you know, just flipping into that business side of the brain, because I know you're a creative.
Yeah, I really wear so many hats that it's just another one of the hats. It's like, at this point, it's just another one of the hats. I try to stick to my expertise, which is creative. But I'm gonna always have my nose in the business, because at the end of the day, that is the goal. You know, music don't last forever. I'm not gonna be this young and fine forever, you know.
Going along with that, you know, how do you handle the stress of constantly, you know, marketing yourself? You're kind of your own product.
My mind is constantly running. Like, I have a notes app in my phone, and it'll say like PR ideas, next video ideas, next photo shoot concept ideas. I watch documentaries, I scroll on Pinterest. Even small things like watching a movie can like spark interest or spark inspiration. It definitely doesn't stop.
Who is your dream collaborator, both in the business world and in the music world?
Business, Riri. Riri. I just feel like she touched our generation in a whole different way. Like, I feel like women like me who might have like a little emotion going on, you know, she showed us that it's possible for us to take it to a whole different level. So definitely Riri. Really, music and business. What's up, Riri? Call me, girl.
Speaking of that, what's next for you? Like, what are you most excited for in 2024?
I'm excited to see how me managing myself, and I also have a team too, but like for the most part, I'm managing myself. Where that takes me, like me having 2 hands on the steering wheel, because I started so young, it's like I'm not used to having to say so, and just being such a decision maker in my career. It's been fun to like see my visions come to life. As a kid, you know, I feel like there's always been a lot of cooks in the kitchen. I'm the cook in the kitchen. So 2024 should be very inspiring and motivating for me, for Alyssa.
I'm Diane Brady. I'm backstage at the Under 30 Summit in Cleveland with Rainn Wilson.
I'm not under 30.
Dwight, no, you're not. You're not under 30, but you are the, I'm not going to say elder statesman, you are the guy who's here to convey excellence and intelligence.
I like elder
under
statesman.
30.
I will
You
go
like
with
that?
elder statesman.
Okay, so
Can we say the under 60 conference? Then I'll
the
fit
under,
right in.
The under 60, this is the under 60 portion of the under 30
I love
event. And in addition to being an elder statesman, you're also an actor, an author. Anything else you want to add? You don't like
I'm a philanthropist and activist.
A philanthropist and activist. And we already, it's funny you
I'm
want
a
to be introduced
4.0 USTA tennis player.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Formerly.
No,
Really?
right now.
Okay, good for
Yeah,
you.
I play in leagues. I play tennis in leagues. Yeah.
We can discuss that if there's time, if you want. But I think we should start, you know, when I was
I'm here to talk about my tennis game. I don't want to talk about entrepreneurship and social change and spirituality and big ideas.
What was your favorite? No, you know what I want to talk about was you talk about this correlation between humor and pain, and I think about John Cleese, and he said when he did therapy, he stopped being funny and he was worried about his career. Do you ever think about that? Are you as funny as you are now that you're further along in your spiritual journey?
I was deep into therapy while playing Dwight and doing some other comic roles like The Rocker and Cooties and the show Mom, etc. So hopefully people still find me funny, but yeah, it's interesting, you know. Arthur Brooks in his new book talks about it a lot, and there's an interesting
Mr. Happiness. That's how I think of Arthur Brooks.
Mr. Happiness,
the Harvard guy.
Yeah. And but there's a counteractive property to humor and trauma. So if you're in pain, depression, and trauma, if you turn to comedy, it kind of obliterates the difficult depressive feelings that you might be having. So as a kid growing up, I had undergone some depression and anxiety. I didn't have a great home life. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't great.
Your mother abandoned you when you were a toddler.
Abandoned.
You grew up in the jungles of Nicaragua. What else do you want to add? I mean, that sounds pretty good to me.
How about
And then you
ennui in the suburbs of Seattle?
Loveless marriage of your dad and
Wow,
your
you
stepmother.
did your research, stalker.
But other than that, yeah, Mrs. Whatever. No, go ahead.
As you were saying. Yeah, but this somewhat traumatized, ennui-ridden, kind of lost, anxious kid with a lot of self-hatred in the suburbs, I turned to memorizing John Cleese skits and Monty Python.
Pre-therapy John Cleese.
Pre-therapy John Cleese and Saturday Night Live sketches, and I found out that I could be pretty funny and a clown and make people laugh, and I just went in that direction because it was a hell of a lot better direction to go in than the other.
If you could go back to that 16-year-old kid, what would you say to him? 16-year-old you, the one who's like full of the pain but very funny, class clown. Just keep going, do what you're doing?
Yeah, I think that everyone, unless you're kind of a weird narcissist, everyone...
Which you're not.
A little bit I am, but unless you are, people have a limited idea of their capacity, a far more limited self definition. And I would say, the idea to me at 16 that I would have written 3 books and started a media company and be talking at lectures like this as well as starring in things would have been just beyond my wildest dreams.
Right.
I just wanted to maybe play some goofy roles on a community theater, and be in, I don't know, Oklahoma or something and get a little paycheck of $273. That's kind of how I viewed myself. So I think that, I would have said that to myself, and I would say that to any young person, be careful of limiting yourself with your own constraints that you've built up inside your head.
Would you say you're happy now? How do you define it?
So happiness is not something that you achieve. I am happier, and I'm on the quest to be happier. So in aggregate, there is a great deal of joy. There's also suffering, difficulty, and setbacks, some anxiety and some depression along the way, and that's natural. So I think this is a common misconception, is one achieves happiness, and it's just you're in this kind of blissed out state all the time. But I've learned some things that make my life better. For instance, this morning, I wanted to sit around and watch the war in Israel on the CNN, but instead I went down to the gym, and it was a very light workout, but I need to be in my body, and that reduces my anxiety and gives me focus. And so I am happier by 1% by having done that. So if you live your life by just making little choices that make you happier, then the aggregate is greater well-being.
You know what, we don't talk about faith a lot because it's almost a verboten subject, but you talk a lot about being part of the Baha'i faith, which is also, that's what you grew up in, right? That was almost the disconnect there. I feel like I am stalking you. It's called Google. But what's the role of that in your life now?
The Baha'i faith is the most important thing in my life. Yeah.
And it wasn't I know we can't synthesize a whole book in the space of 30 seconds, but when you think about the journey of what it means to you, just talk a bit about that, because I feel like we don't get the opportunity to really talk about the role faith plays in our lives.
That's a great question, and thank you very much for asking it, because you're 100% right. Especially in the more secular, materialist, kind of blue state, coastal America, faith is almost a dirty word.
Right.
And rediscovering my faith, reading the great holy texts of the world, being on a spiritual journey and on a spiritual path, helped me so much personally, but also expanded my vision, and my capacity was raised, and it helped give my life kind of meaning and focus. And so every morning I pray to God, I meditate, I connect with my higher power, and I think that this helps give me resilience and like I said, focus and meaning. So it's super, super important to me. And I think that contemporary society, I say in my book, Soul Boom, I say, we've thrown the spiritual baby out with the religious bathwater. You know, we've rejected religion, sometimes for a very good reason, like, oh, they're corrupt and they're hypocritical and they're judgmental, and that's all good. But what have we lost by jettisoning religion? And there are some spiritual tools and spiritual kind of community-based transcendence that can be found through a religious and spiritual practice. I don't want to separate religion and spirituality, but they're both important in their way.
What about comedy as a tool now? Because that was a tool for you, right?
Yeah, comedy is a mental health tool. That's why so many comedians are so screwed up. They went to it as a survival mechanism. It's a way of seeing the world. If they weren't able to see the world through some skewed lens, they might be dead, a lot of the comedians that are working today.
What is it for you at this point? It's just part of who you are, I guess.
Yeah, I'm just a weird kid with a big head from suburban Seattle, and I have a weird way of seeing the world, and I've been really lucky to play some great comedic roles, and it's part of who I am. It always will be.
Long live weird. Thanks for joining
Yeah,
us. It's
thanks
a
for
great
having
place to
me.
be.
What a delight speaking with you.
Thank you.
Grandmaster Flash, Africa Bambaataa, Kool Herc started throwing parties, and they started mixing records like "To Be Real." With he could, but and as kids, so I was too young to go. So my big brother, he was actually a crate boy for Grandmaster Flash. So this is how much Fat Joe is woven within the culture of hip hop. Is my big brother used to carry the crates. They used to play vinyl. So my big brother had the privilege of carrying Flash's crates, but he would come back with these cassettes. And we would listen to the cassette, and they'd be like, back up off the ropes, back up off the ropes, get behind the ropes. And they'd be like, Mary, Mary, where are you going to? On, that funk is on. Y'all be like, yo. They had a record that I don't know if anybody in this room heard, but they had this, I don't know if you've been told that Santa Claus is a black man. A black man, a black man. And I be in the house like, yo, this is crazy right here. And so to answer your question is, so growing up in the Bronx, I grew up in a project building. So our projects have 14 buildings. Our one project building had 144 families. And we had a lot of people in every apartment, right? And so the first time I heard a record go viral was The Message by Grandmaster Flash and the Furious. And what I mean by that is when I came down the building, every floor I went to, every single apartment was
don't push me.
What?
'Cause I'm
to the edge.
I'm trying
not to. All right, I'll give it over to Dougie.
That's your 5-time Grammy nominee, Fat Joe. All right, Dougie, when you were growing up and you were in Harlem, and part of what made rap was the beat and the beatbox, and this is the human beatbox, the first person to say, well, it doesn't have to be a machine, it could be a person, and it could be part of the, it could be part of the human created music experience. Where'd that idea come from? How did you even think of that?
Well, continuing on the story of hip hop, I grew up in Harlem, and there's certain people that played a specific role. There's a guy named DJ Hollywood. He is the first guy that I ever heard and to date rap. And my sister came in the house one day and she said, there's this guy named Hollywood everybody's talking about. I said, what he does? She said, he rap. I said, what tell me what he say. He said, ring-a-ding-a-ding, da-dong, da-dong, dong, da-dang, da-dang, dang, da-ding, da-dong, dong, to the hip, hop. I said, say that again. And I never forgot it. But he was the guy who inspired me as well as the people that Joe are talking about. So I was able to learn directly from Hollywood. And I am of the first generation. I'm kind of like the first child of the first generation of hip hop. You know. So it's very interesting. So to answer your question, because Joe, I knew Joe before he was rapping. He was strapping. Maybe capping. No, but a different type when it wasn't that. But continuing on with the story. So, yeah. Just a little, keep y'all engaged here. So real short.
I don't think you're having an issue there.
Yeah. We're in Davos, you know? So what happened in growing up in Harlem, you're around the dope fiends, the drug dealers, pimps, prostitutes. I mean, it's unbelievable what we grew up in. For us to be here now is a blessing from God, because we grew up in an environment that most people don't get out of. And we have a lot of friends that did not make it out. So we represent hip hop to the fullest, and we represent those that didn't make it out. Because one of the things that we have in common is that we don't leave no man behind. You see what I'm saying? That's something culturally that we just don't do. So in hip hop, there's 5 elements. You have the DJ, and the DJs were Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. Well, Grandmaster Flash. Grand was a Theodore. These were the top guys that you knew. In Harlem, it was Master Don. DJ Hollywood, he was a DJ, but we knew him more for MCing. Number 2 is the MC. MC is the master of ceremony, which is different than the rapper. Number 3 is the graffiti artist. Some of y'all seen graffiti, you be upset, but some of y'all don't understand the creativity of the person that's doing it. Number 4 is the break dancer, electric boogie. Some of y'all probably in here used to break dance, but if you try that now, you're gonna break. Right? And number 5 is the beatbox, and I created the 5th element. So in creating the 5th element, I appreciate that. Summarizing it up, I created the 5th element because in school, I used to play in junior high. I was learning how to play the trumpet. And my music teacher, well, I came to the school to learn how to play the drums and the percussions. The music teacher told me, no, you gotta play the trumpet first. He said, and then I'll let you play the drums and the percussions. I said, okay, no problem. I wasn't happy about it, but I was doing it. So you take this trumpet home every day. And I used to practice this all the time. One day I came back to the school, and the music program was cut. As in most of our schools, when it was programs that was really engaging, they would cut them. So I gave him back the trumpet, but I used to remember the exercises. And in the way we grew up, there'd be speakers, mom and pop record shops walking up the block. So I would hear all of the different songs. So walking home, I would kind of like say, oh, let me do the bass line. Okay, let me do the drum. So if it's a bass line, remember the song Super Rapping? God damn. Right. So that's the bass line. So now I'm walking and I'm doing the bass line. Then I'll say, let me throw something else in there. Then I would say, I'm going to throw something else in there. And I just keep adding and adding to like. And now I'm doing all of these things. So I started just doing it more and more to the point that I started to go over one of my guys' house to practice because we would practice with the DJ. So while he was taking the records off, I started doing the same thing. And then he said, yo, that was crazy. And his mother came in and said, I like that beat. That was a nice record. You should play it. He said, that wasn't a beat, Ma. That was him. And she said that, and she said, well, he said, well, I don't know what that means, but okay. And then he told me to do it outside at something we would call a jam. It's a block party, a big block party, but it's illegal. We would plug the system into the light pole. Nobody was an electrician either. I don't know why.
The only way I could explain this is, I'm sorry, Doug. It's like when you see the movies of Easter and Jesus Christ is walking and you see like an Exodus. So you would be playing softball, basketball, whatever you doing. The minute you heard that speaker going boom, 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 you would just drop your baseball bat, your glove, and everybody would be walking towards the music, and that's where the break dancing and everything would go for. I'm sorry.
No, and that's
this
good.
is called a commentator.
That's
routine.
right. No, that's what we throwing. This is how we doing it. See, so what happened is that then I did it outside. This was never done. This is something nobody ever heard of. So when I did it, everybody was going crazy, like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. So that was the birth of the beatbox, which became the fifth element. Now the question is this: would I have created it if the music program wasn't cut? You see? So sometimes this is why I describe hip hop as this. I always say, we the willing, led by the unknowing, are doing the impossible for the ungrateful. We have done so much,
we the willing,
for so long with so little that we are now qualified to do anything with nothing. And that is hip hop.
So first of all, 2-point order. I have the easiest job in the history of moderation. And the second is, you all are at the best panel in the whole week of Davos already. So, and we got another hour of good stuff and 2 more panels to come, but we'll keep going. By the way, guys, stay a while. Why don't we make some room and pull up? There's a lot of space over on that side. So if you can, take out that bottleneck.
All I heard when I was coming, they say Davos is like, the home of the billionaires. Yeah. And I actually thought of putting my wire information behind this panel while we were talking.
I see some money out there. I will tell you that.
Some people do Cash App. I do wire.
But let's talk about money. Doug, you talked about the fact that you didn't, your music program got cut and you had to do it. I will say, Forbes is in more rap songs than almost any other brand. We're in 75 different rap songs. And people ask me, why is that? Why is that? And I've been thinking about it for a long time, but I think I have the reason, which is because Forbes is a brand about entrepreneurship and doing it yourself. And when you say, hey, I'm on the cover of Forbes, I'm in Forbes, it means no one is giving anything to you. You had to take it. And people intuitively get that and say, well, that's a brand that celebrates people who take it for themselves versus wait to be promoted by their big corporation, which, you guys have had, decades and decades waiting for that and not getting it and now having to take it. So with that in mind, how do we go from the beats to the bucks? How did, you guys have had financial lows and you've had financial highs, and now you're both riding on highs here. How have you seen hip-hop evolve over these 50 years as a creator's business?
Well, Dougie's from the golden age. I like to think that's the greatest era of hip-hop. Me personally, the LL Cool J's, the Fat Boys, the Salt and Peppers, the MC Lights, Queen Latifahs, the Slick Ricks, the Dougies, that time, right? Big Daddy Kane's, the Biz Markie, rest in peace. But when we came, which is the Jay-Z's, the Nas, the Fat Joes, the Diddy's, not to say the music industry isn't still exploiting the artists and the talent, but we came with a sense of ownership and equity. And so we started our own subsidiaries and our own brands, and we started our own clothing lines and our own liquor brands and our own, and so so we came in with a sense of, all right, we ain't gonna work for nobody, we gonna work for ourselves. And we've been doing it ever since, right? And like me, I'm independent. Everything I own everything. Right? Anything I do, I own it. If you see Fat Joe doing this, he's a part of it somewhere. Whether it's 1% or 100%, he owns it, right? And so that's what I think my era came from, with ownership. And now we're thinking about the tech space, the AI space. We're thinking about the cannabis space. New York City is finally legalizing cannabis. So you better believe Fat Joe's gonna have a warehouse of cannabis. And I don't even smoke, but I'm an entrepreneur, Mr. Forbes.
And let me jump on that too. I come from what he's talking about, LL and a lot of these guys, that's actually the second wave of hip hop. And let me tell you why, because the first wave.
I said the golden age.
Yeah, the golden age.
You guys.
Right. No, that's, well, the golden. But when I'm saying the first, I'm talking about the guys that never got their just due, which is the Cold Crush Brothers. I don't feel Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five got what they deserve. I don't feel that, you know, the Fantastic Five, DJ Hollywood, a lot of the guys got what they deserve. Right, and we can go on and on. So one of the things that I'm looking to see is something set up where the people that help build this are able to be taken care of. It's like your mother or your father. You know, they help you get an education, they help you grow, they put you through things. And when you see that you have made yourself successful, you want to give back to your mother, your father, your grandmother. So part of my journey of being here is to get people to have a better understanding and appreciation of hip hop so that we can do something and set something up so that a lot of the great artists that have established this can be taken care of, not in a way like you're just giving them something, but they gave you something. They gave the world hip hop. This thing called hip hop has transformed the world. It's colorless. Everybody's hip hop. Everybody's engaging. I mean, one day
let me say one thing, right? 9/11, right, was a day where music stopped. Right? I was in New York City when it happened, and music stopped. I mean, stopped. Planes were moving. Music. It was just eerie, right? Not only because of what happened on 9/11, but with the music stopping, it let me know that if this world didn't have music, this would be a horrible place. And so music is the universal language. You know, we go perform in Japan, some of these people don't even speak English. They know every word of a hip hop song. You know, we seen some army guys. I'm sorry to cut you off. I seen some army guys in Ukraine going to war, and they were playing Lean Back. They didn't even know English, and they was saying, and they were saying, this motherfucker saying some shit on here. We need to pump this.
I don't even know what he's saying, but I know it's...
Oh, I know he's saying something. Right? And so music is one of the biggest gifts God ever gave earth, and hip-hop music. If you ever want to know what's going on in the world, you'll learn it through hip-hop. If you want to know what's going on in Ukraine, find the Ukrainian rappers. You want to know what's going on in Mexico? You want to know what's going on in Iraq? Find the Iraq rappers. Oh, they telling you what's going on.
There's a Ukrainian rap group, Faux Show. We've had some Forbes events. And it's super powerful.
Chuck D used to say hip-hop is the CNN of the streets. You know, Chuck D from Public Enemy. And to add on to what Joe is saying, too, look at COVID. When COVID hit, a lot of people were just alone. And now that has been under control to a large degree. Here we are gathering again. So we celebrate life. We celebrate each other. It makes you have a greater appreciation for each other and a greater appreciation for life. So that's what hip hop is here for, to heal. So I use it for the purpose of healing and to, you know, because I come from that generation that it has always been pure. Like I do hip hop in a form that's not practiced that much anymore. It's pure, it's uncut. So the other part that I think hip hop is good for, and what I think we're here to really let you understand, is that I have a foundation that I did with a doctor called Dr. Williams out of Columbia Hospital in New York City, and it's called Hip Hop Public Health. So we use hip hop to educate children. And did I jump ahead or something?
No. I'm just mindful of time.
Okay, yeah, well, yeah. It's quick, but to teach people about childhood obesity, do you see how the kids now don't go out and play? They sit there and they're on their computers. They're not engaging anymore. We used to go out and play. We would be out there chasing girls, having a good time, you know, having fun. But now,
playing wiffle ball, listening to Dougie Fresh.
Hey, you see what I'm saying? So now you're talking about high blood pressure, diabetes, anxiety, depression. So we wanted to create something that we could use hip hop in a positive way to have impact in everybody's life. So that's where we got to go with hip hop.
I couldn't agree. So that we've talked about the impact, we've talked about the origins. Getting back to last, because we've got, a lot of the rest of the program, we're going to focus on generational wealth. Yeah. We're going to focus how you take the culture and create wealth. And I want to, Dougie, you have one of the most sampled songs of all time. I think it's a top 5 all-time sampled song. Do you make any from money? Do you make money from when people are using this, this asset that you created?
Yeah, I make money, but you have to have
the right team. Lottie for those who don't know.
You know that song?
When you hear it, you'll know it. Trust me.
Lottie Dottie, we like to party. We don't cause trouble. We don't. Well, I'll do that later.
Just the man that's on the mic.
Yeah. Hold on, man. We're going to get into that later now. Come on. Yeah,
so we just did that. Do you make any money from that?
Yeah. I make money from it, and actually, I was one of the first artists to ever own his masters. Actually, I think I was the first. Because in '85, nobody wanted to sign me or Slick Rick because they thought he sounded crazy and they didn't think the beatbox was what it was. So I put up the money myself. And when I put up the money myself, I went around looking for labels. I took it to Profile. He said, this is the worst record I ever heard. He said the Show and Latto was the worst record he ever heard. I said, no problem. I took it to a little label, and then I did a deal with them. And when I did the deal, they would distribute it. And I own the masters, and I own the publishing of all of my songs. So I look at it the same way. So to answer your question, I think that more artists need to own their masters and own their songs. I mean, it's intellectual property. I'm also into real estate. And I say there's only 2 positions you can play in life. You can either be the tenant or the landlord. And the landlord is the lord of the land. You understand? So I'd rather be the landlord. So it's the same with the intellectual property. So I think that that's one of the things. When you own this intellectual real estate, I never thought that this record that we made would still be relevant today in the way that it is. I make more money off the song now than I did when it first came out.
That's amazing. Well, that's how you build generational wealth. I think with that, we'll transition to the next panel. But I will say, if people want to hear more from these guys, we got 2 hours tonight where, we're going to hear the music, we're going to feel the music, and now, we've all kind of seen where it came from, both in terms of the history, but also in terms of where it's going. And that, what you guys have done, you guys have built the foundation that entire business and entire culture is now built upon. So thank you for all you did as pioneers. Here at Davos, we appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And definitely one last thing I'd like to say, I'd like to thank Cool and Dre for having us here.
Thank you, Cool and Dre.
And I want to thank my brother Fat Joe, because we go back so far, and to see what he has accomplished in his career is unbelievable. He has transformed so much in hip hop, just even on the level of Latino hip hop artists. Because there was a guy named Ruby D from Fantastic Romantic 5, and then it went to Tito from the Fearless 4, and Fat Joe has taken this thing to a level that's unexplainable. So I want to say that in front of my brother.
All right.
All right, Denim, thank you so much for being here today with me.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, so I guess to start, because you have such an insane career that's taken a bunch of different levels and ways, tell me about why you wanted to get into the entertainment industry in the first place.
I mean, when I was younger, I was like 5. It was mainly because it gave me an opportunity to get out of class. So they would pick you to do these shows, and then you had to go rehearse. So you would be, and when I say out of class, it was probably like 20 minutes. But when you're 5, you might as well have been all day.
Right.
Right. So I love that. And then I did a show where I was sang for like 500-600 people. And I just loved the response. I loved the energy and the excitement and all these other things. And so from then, I just never wanted to not do it. So I went from doing theater to musical theater and then doing that. So my love for it is the same as it was when I was 5.
Amazing. And I know you said musical theater. That really interests me because you're not doing so much of that right now.
No.
What happened? Do you plan to do it again or?
So when I was like 15, 16, I was like heavily into musical theater, trained as an opera singer as well.
Oh, wow.
But one of the things about these disciplines, what I always try to stress to people is like, you can't just like decide you want to just do it, walk away from it, and then come back and think that you're just going to be as great as you were before. Right, it's a discipline. And so I, at a certain point, had to pick one. It was so, I love musical theater, I loved opera, I loved the vocal challenge of all of it. But then there was the opportunity also where I really wanted to do the television and film side, and also financially for where I was in my life, it made a little bit more sense. Because, you know, doing theater, it still hasn't, you don't get the paid and you don't, the way that you would want to be able to make that big living, if you will, or a sustainable living sometimes. And so it made sense to me, but one day, hopefully I'll be able to do it. Like occasionally, I still have, you know, soundtracks in my car that occasionally on long drives, I still test the vocals. They're definitely not what they were 10 years ago, but it's okay. We're working on it. Yeah.
And the thing I love about you too is that you're not just like an actor or an entertainer. You're also a businessman.
Yeah.
Tell me about the founding of your studio.
Yeah, so Khumo Studios was founded 2.5 years ago when I came to Botswana for the first time. So I have two partners, Ona and Kay, who are co-founders, and they're also local Botswana. We want to do television and film, and you know, the country of Botswana, they have so much desire for art, entertainment, and culture, but there wasn't necessarily a huge market yet. And they're still trying to figure out, like, how do we scale this to an international market with standards and what that looks like. And so I felt like, well, this is literally what I do for a living. I have a passion for that. I love the teaching. I love the building. And I love the birthing options when you're going through the pain of building a business. So it was just a natural fit. So yeah, that's how Khumo and Khumo Studios was born.
Very cool. And obviously you're the most well-known, I think, in the U.S. for Yellowstone.
Yeah.
How did any of those lessons that you learned about the business of Hollywood and your time on set there help you build your studio?
100%. It's the only way that I'm able to do it. So, you know, the great thing, so Yellowstone's on the Paramount network, and when Paramount started, it didn't really have a full identity yet. It was trying to figure out, what do we do? They were doing a lot of like reality shows, like reruns, like Bar Rescue and things of that nature, and they were trying to figure out what they do. And then this is how Taylor Sheridan, you know, who's like the biggest showrunner in the world now, came with the script with Kevin Costner in it. And they kind of showed Paramount like how you could build this model, you know, get a good show, get one good star, get a great storyline, and take a big swing. It's a Western, right? And Westerns were kind of phased out in the US. And I think now because of it, it's kind of revitalized that. And so coming over here, I was like, okay, these are some of the business models. Get a good show, find a flagship, find something that you're getting on the pulse of the country, and go from there.
What's been the biggest challenge you faced when building your studio up?
So I think, you know, for me, you know, I don't know everything, so I'm still learning as well. So it's like you're building and you're learning and you're building and you're learning. But then also just understanding that not every single thing that you do in the US as far as how you build something is necessarily the best way to do it here in Africa. And every country in Africa has a different way that they do business, that they hear business, that they receive business advice and things of that nature. So, which I think it's actually made like it makes for better leadership, because you don't do like a one size fits all. So you go to these different places and you do that. So I think for me, more than anything, it's been about the kind of just more of the educational side of it. How does the business of entertainment make money? How do you scale it up? And so I've been learning it myself, and now through my learning and through my education, it's helped me be able to communicate more effectively.
Interesting. So do you see your studio just being Botswana, or do you have plans to expand throughout the continent and maybe global?
Yeah, so our goal is definitely, so our base will always be here in Botswana, but we're all over the continent. Like we do Khumo Masters, where we do capacity building. Where we teach about the business of entertainment. So we teach about all the things I was just talking about, right? Because you can't just say like, oh, we want to do television and film, but you're not also cultivating the next generation to be able to come into that. So we're going to, you know, we're in Zambia, we're doing some things in South Africa, we'll be in Tanzania, we'll be in Kenya, we'll be in Namibia. And so we'll kind of see what this model, you know, and then we'll eventually see where it takes us.
Has it been hard to find funding or things to propel this forward in any type of VC funding, or what's your experience?
So yeah, it is a little bit challenging, only because it's a model where people don't really think like Africa entertainment studios, what does that look like? And unless it's kind of like a Netflix or an Amazon or a Hulu, for a lot of people, it's like, it doesn't really make any sense, right? Like Denim is not Disney, right? So it's not like an automatic, let's go and do it. So a lot of the stuff that we've been doing, especially the first year as an entrepreneur, is like you just self-fund, right? And you figure it out. And then as you start to do that, it becomes easier when you're actually going to get the venture capitalist funding and things of that nature, because they've seen, oh, you guys like really believe in it. It's not like you just had an idea, brought it to us, want us to take all the risk. It's like, oh, you've been doing this for a while. You're taking some massive swings here. If that's the case, and you're here, and I think that's something that's important for me, was I didn't want to do it until I knew I could be here for most of the time, because I don't like going and saying, hey, let's do a partnership, and then you're not in the country and I'm not in the country, and now I'm having somebody that's not as engaged running it. So now we're at a place where I can be here most of the year, outside of doing Yellowstone, and so now have a better opportunity to take some bigger swings.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And so a little bit of a fun question for you, because maybe you think, so what do you wish that you had known about the entertainment industry when you were first starting out that you know now?
So I say this thing in our Khumo Masters, that your passion is going to make you poor. I wish that I had knew more about the business side of it, more than just be passionate about it. Just be excited to get up and go do the job, right? Or go do the art. And I think sometimes in the entertainment industry, we get so caught up in just wanting to be like the artist, but the artist also needs to have like lawyers and accountants and understand like investments and things of that nature, and scalability as well. Like, you're these small businesses. And I think so more than anything, I wish I would have known that like the passion is great, because it's kind of like a given circumstance that you need to have to even want to get into this.
Right.
But you really got to know the business and how to do that. And then the passion will kind of drive everything else.
So with that being said, what business advice would you give to young entrepreneurs who are in the same spot you were in?
So I would say more than anything, you make sure that you don't have an ego and don't be in the business of entitlement. Like, no one is going to just give you something just because you decided that you have a good idea. There's a lot of great ideas, there's a lot of good ideas. Not every good or great idea means it's going to get funded. So you have to have that real belief in yourself that this is something that you really feel like you're going to do everything that you need to do to make sure this gets done. I say this like, by all moral means necessary, just win, right? So make sure that you're not in the business of entitlement. Make sure you don't have an ego, and be open to partnerships, right? Would you rather have 50% of something or 100% of nothing?
Right.
And then from there, as your life goes on, then you can kind of dictate what that percentage looks like.
Makes a lot of sense. And one last question for you. What are your biggest goals for this upcoming year? And are there any announcements or anything exciting in the pipeline you could tell us about?
So, I mean, we're going to be doing a couple new shows here in Botswana, where I'm really excited about scaling up our Khumo Masters, which is, like I said, it's our capacity building program that we'll be doing all over the continent to be able to help governments as well as other entrepreneurs in entertainment be able to kind of get more people that understand the technicalities of the business. So I'm really excited about that. Obviously, we'll be going back soon to do the back half of season 5 for Yellowstone. So there's a couple other ones. I have to wait until contracts are signed before I can announce, but I'm really looking forward to this year just being bigger than the last one.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.